tell you what I did not have on my 2025 bingo card. X Shot Pro AEG, also known as an auto springer. Yet here we are, a full auto select fire AEB with a rifling attachment and 2 mags for only $70. And all before GTA 6. But while I am extremely excited for this news, I've only seen people gushing about this blaster without talking about the almost guaranteed drawbacks that it's going to have. And that's why in this video, I'm going to tell you why I think you should not buy the new X Shot Pro AEB. Let's get into it. First, we need to quickly talk about what an AEB/AEG actually is. I haven't really talked much about this on the channel, despite the fact that I have one right here, and I have used several of them over the past few years. But AEB stands for Automatic Electric Blaster. Now in Airsoft, they call their blasters guns, hence the G in AEG instead of AEB. But basically what this is a spring-powered blaster that has a motor inside it that primes the blaster for you. These blasters are supposed to be the best of both worlds, as accurate as your traditional manual-powered Springer, without having to prime it manually, but also at that higher rate of fire that we get from flywheelers. Now, Airsoft players have had this technology for decades. Nerf technically released an AEB all the way back in 2010, called the Stampede. But in the past couple of years, other companies have been taking a stab at making AEBs for the Nerf hobby. Most of these AEBs are very expensive in comparison to our traditional manual springers or flywheel blasters. And because of this price, they're inaccessible to a lot of people. And you couldn't find a working AEG under $100 until now. That brings us to the new X Shot Pro blaster that everyone's foaming at the mouth for. Now, this blaster hasn't officially released, and there is no official release date for it yet. But we're going to go over all of the relevant information. Then I'm going to break down what that information means for you as the consumer, why everyone, including myself, is very excited for this blaster, and finally, why, despite that excitement, I don't recommend you buy it, or at least what you should expect if you choose to buy it anyways. Now, some of the first things I noticed about this blaster are that it has a rifling attachment, specifically a bearing scar. Bearing scars in the past 5 years have become an increasingly popular rifling option. Now, all rifling attachments in Nerf seek to spin the dart in order to stabilize it in flight. Bearing scars usually do so without introducing as much friction, and that is their main benefit. This is also something that X Shot has never done before, and this would be only the second on-the-shelf blaster to come with an attachment like this, the first being the Nexus Pro X. I also noticed up front we've got what appears to be some kind of barrel collet, which in theory means you could change out your barrels without having to buy a separate part. Now, an interesting thing I'm noticing here up front is that there's actually a mag window, which is really nice to be able to see your darts as you are going through them, which is just a quality of life feature that I haven't seen them or even really Dart Zone doing. It also looks like there's 2 magazine releases here. This mag looks like a straight mag in comparison to the curved mag that comes with the other 2 blasters in their Pro line. And similarly to the ZSBK 1S and 2S, it seems to have a charging handle. Now, this may be intended to clear jams, or it could be simply aesthetic. It does look to have a really small handle if it is meant to manually prime the blaster that way. And looking in the rear, I'm seeing a buffer tube, but more importantly, I'm seeing what looks like another threaded piece to detach that buffer tube. If it's anything like Airsoft AEGs, then it's likely that the batteries are contained here. Now, I'm not going to read you the whole description for the Walmart website listing, but here are some of the important bits. First, X Shot Pro motorized piston pump blaster. That's basically what they're calling their AEG system. It's recommended for 14 plus, just like any of the other Pro line items. It also says it has a steel accuracy Pro barrel. While it's very common for Pro level blasters to come with metal barrels, this is the first time I'm seeing one that's listed specifically out of steel. And while I would just chalk this up to a mistranslation or a typographical error, there's something in the listing that makes me think it might actually be steel. But we'll get to that in a second. It says that it has an impressive firing range of 150 feet. Usually, the claim of the overall maximum distance is relatively 1-to-1 with the FPS claims. So I think we're looking at a direct competitor for the BK1S/2S platform. I did see some speculation that this would hit 200 FPS, but if we scroll down a little bit further, it does in fact directly and outright state, ultra powerful launch dart at your opponents with either semi-automatic or fully automatic modes, achieving speeds of up to 150 FPS. So two little important bits of information there. We've confirmed that it's select fire, which allows you to go from semi-auto to full auto, and we've also confirmed that it claims to have 150 FPS out of the box. It also says that the dart capacity is 40 darts. Now, it's abundantly clear that the magazine that is in the photos is not a 40-round magazine. So what that means is that it comes with two 20-round magazines. After all, they wouldn't make a new magazine type if it didn't carry any extra darts. It does say that it comes with the air pocket technology darts, which is basically just the X Shot Pro darts that the other two blasters came with. Now, the next interesting thing that I want to talk about is batteries. This blaster is an electric blaster, so it's powered by batteries. What kind of batteries? Apparently AAA batteries. If I believe that, I'm not 100% certain. I guess that it's not impossible for it to be AAA batteries, it's just a really unlikely situation. My personal theory is that it's probably going to come with something more similar to a lithium-ion battery. And that's also what X Shot already uses in their gel blasters. After all, gel blasters are basically also AEGs. Now that's not to say that it's impossible that they would use AAA batteries, but it would take a lot more AAA batteries to power something like this. I mean, the Maxim Pro, the Dart Zone Mark III, and the Sender, all, even though they're flywheelers, use about 8 AA batteries. And AAA batteries have even less capacity than those. So again, I find it very unlikely that an AEG is going to be powered by those. But I guess no more unlikely than X Shot coming out with an AEG before Dart Zone. Now, something I don't see enough people talking about is how much this blaster weighs. According to the listing, the assembled product weight is 4.41 pounds. That makes it over a half pound heavier than the BK1S/2S. Also, steel is heavier than both brass and aluminum.
That's right, it's a kilogram of steel, because steel is heavier than feathers.
What? Which is why earlier I was mentioning there was something in the listing that made me believe it's actually possible that it's not a typo that this barrel is made out of steel, and is contributing significantly to its weight. Also on the listing on Walmart's website, we're seeing that it comes in at $69.
Nice.
However, there is an alternative graphic that's come out showing the other blasters in the line, and in that graphic, the blaster's listed at $60. Now, if this blaster lives up to all of the hype, this could be a game-changing blaster for the hobby. But that's the issue. Can it live up to the hype? Now, some of the issues that we're definitely going to see are going to be in two categories. One, things with X Shot's reputation themselves, and then things with AEGs in general. And when you combine these two, you're going to start seeing the picture that I want to paint for you. When it comes to AEGs in general, there are a lot of problems associated with them in the Nerf hobby. And part of that stems from the fact that the projectiles that we use in our hobby are significantly heavier than the projectiles used in airsoft. Now, airsoft BBs can weigh anywhere from 0.1 grams to 0.4 grams, with an average sitting right at the 0.2 gram mark. Meanwhile, in darts in the aftermarket Nerf scene sit anywhere from 0.75 to 1.3 grams, with the average dart weighing about 1 gram. That means that the average Nerf dart is 5 times heavier than the average BB, which means the internals have to work that much harder to push a Nerf dart the same speed as it would push an airsoft BB. And as Spider-Man will tell you, more power means more problems. And while there are quite a few AEGs for the Nerf hobby, aka AEBs, available at the moment, all of them suffer from some kind of reliability issue. The Sweetheart Storm has had several issues with its board, the BK1S has a jamming issue, and a lot of them like to shred their own internals under the force that they produce. Over each iteration, these companies are putting more robust internals inside to try to stop that from happening. Which brings me to X Shot's reputation. Specifically, their reputation with their plastic quality. Something that X Shot is notorious for is for their low, cheap, or even thin plastic quality.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Something that, combined with internals that are likely to shred themselves, is not going to be a good recipe. Now again, it is heavier than the BK1S, so I could be wrong and they could be using metal internals. But as with most things, if a price seems too good to be true, it usually is. They have to cut a corner somewhere, so I can't imagine full metal internals on a blaster that cost $70. Now let's say X Shot came out with a blaster that was $500. Would I suddenly be more likely to believe that it could work? Well, only slightly, because if we look at some of the best and most expensive AEBs that are currently available, and even one that's not, the maintenance on an AEB is going to be very high, and I think that's something not a lot of people are prepared for. And there are blasters that cost upwards of $500 that still require regular maintenance regular disassembly, and fairly advanced knowledge of these mechanisms in order to properly operate, service, and maintain these blasters. I mean, people who are actual engineers like Eli Wu have spent ungodly amounts of money on making blasters like his Impulse and the second iteration Inertia, which are from scratch AEGs. Now, Eli is a friend of mine and also a member of my pro team, which is why I can say confidently, despite the fact that you've seen this blaster working extremely well in these tournaments, half the time he spends working on them to make sure they're working right before and right after these tournaments, which is something that most people are not going to be able to or even want to do. Now let's just say for a moment that everything on this blaster works exactly as intended and reliably. Will it replace flywheelers or even springers in the Nerf hobby? Well, I don't think so. First of all, they are getting banned in a couple places, and it's not because of how amazing they are, it's because of the sounds that they make being much more closer or mistakable for firearms. Nerf is a hobby that is majorly played in public places. And specifically, many clubs use parks, which is also why HPA blasters aren't allowed. AEGs also don't fully deliver yet what they promise, which is the perfect blend of a manual springer and a flywheeler. They do offer a high rate of fire over a manual springer, but nowhere near as high as what's capable out of a flywheeler. In addition to that, they do offer increased accuracy over older flywheelers, but due to the inconsistent FPS and possibly some other factors, they're not as accurate as a dialed-in springer. And to make that tightening gap even tighter, modern flywheelers are getting more accurate, and there are more and more builds like the SBF and the Protean trying to integrate bearing scars into flywheelers. The jury's still out on whether that's actually effective or not, but what I can say for certain is flywheels are getting more accurate than they've been in the past. Where this blaster and AEGs in general are going to sit in the next couple of years is going to be a very interesting thing to watch. And that's exactly what I'm recommending that you do. Watch, wait, and see. Let people like me, like other YouTube reviewers, like other companies, take the time to waste their money, their resources on getting these things, testing these things, and developing these things. So that way you don't waste your money on something that bricks itself after a few months of use, if it even lasts that long. Now, if you're into airsoft or if you're into modding Nerf blasters and you have experience with AEGs, or you're just gonna get this blaster anyways, despite all the things I've been warning you about, then I will say that this thing probably has some pretty sick mod potential, especially in the aesthetics department, because it has that huge section of exposed metal barrel, and if we've learned anything from the Nerf hobby, we love our shrouds. Enter the BK1S/2S and all the shrouds available for that, and also enter the SBL2 behind me. I mean, even the Unicorn here is a prime example of a blaster that had a long exposed barrel in one of its upgrades, and then bam, we got a ton of shrouds for it. So I'm excited for all the designers who are going to make shrouds for that. Now, despite all of the negative things that I've said, you might also be asking yourself, well,
King of Games, you said not to get one, but you're probably going to get one.
yes, I'm probably going to get one. So make sure you mag dump that like button so you can see me shred mine before you decide to buy and shred yours. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you see when that video comes out. In the meantime, if you like what you saw on the channel, feel free to check out my tournament vlog, where I take these blasters into the harshest environments possible, compete with some of the best players in the country, and possibly soon, the world. And if you'd like to see me do more reaction/news content, then let me know down in the comments. But as for this video, that's all I have for you today. So until next time on the King of Games, have a blast.